Hey guys, it's the end of the year now, so I thought I would talk about my 10 favorite books of 2021. So I have a list here. It's December 20th right now, so the year is almost over. I think there's about 11 days left in the year. And at this point, I have read, 111 books this year. I think that's maybe the most books I've ever read in one whole year, so I'm really impressed with myself there. And these are, out of all of those books, my top 10. And I have kind of like broken these down into a scale like from my most favorite to least favorite. I'm going to start with my top 10. I love all of these books, but I'm going to start with my top 10 and then go down to my number 1. So I'll get started. My 10th favorite book of the year was An Absolutely Remarkable Thing by Hank Green. I really enjoyed this book. Well, at the time I was reading it, I think I read this book back in March. I was reading a lot of like fantasy and romance, but this was sci-fi. And I don't really read sci-fi, but I really liked how Hank Green was able to include not only the sci-fi elements, but also our culture now of social media and kind of how that impacts an individual who has like no concern with social media and how addicting it can become, that it takes over her whole life. And I really liked how Hank Green was able to talk about it, because like he's lived with social media. His career is social media. So I really liked seeing that perspective. I really liked the characters. I think the first book was definitely better than the second, but I did enjoy the sequel. It's a great pair of books. Like I read the first one in like one sitting. I'm like, wow, this was amazing. So that's my 10th favorite book of the year. Let's go to number 9, The Love Hypothesis by Al Hazelwood. This is actually I wouldn't say recent read, but I've read it in the past couple of months. And the reason why this is number 9 is I think it's the perfect romance novel. And I know that The Love Hypothesis was based off of Reylo fanfic, so Rey and Kylo Ren from Star Wars. And I know that, but it hits like all the perfect romance. You have like the meet cute, you have pining, you have like awkward moments together, not the one bed trope, but you get all these different tropes, and I just thought it was really cute, it was really sweet, and I thought it was like it just like hit all the corners of what a romance novel should be. And I really liked how it was contemporary, and it focused on, and it was set in an academic setting, and it was really cute, and you got to see like politics and friendship, but also the bond grow between these two characters. Number 8 is Jenny Slate's A Little Weird. So I enjoy Jenny Slate's, just her way of thinking, her just general weirdness, so to say. And I really enjoyed reading this book about her travels and her life, and kind of how she as a woman, like lived and experienced things. And I really liked her approach on how she interacted with nature and people. And it was just a book that makes you positive, but not in like a cliche way, which is funny that being positive can be cliche. But I really enjoyed this book. Then number 7 was Written in the Stars by Belle Fleur. So this is kind of, it's an okay book. It's not the best, it's not like fine literature. I got it at Target, and it's basically lesbians being messy in the best way possible. It's like a typical romance plot, but being gay isn't the whole point of the story. And I really enjoyed that. We got to see these characters have miscommunication. Everything wasn't like rainbows the whole time. They got to struggle and interact and actually like fight for their romance, and I really enjoyed that because it felt real. And it kind of like opened my eyes to how literature can be written where it's still heartwarming and queer. Number 6 is actually a whole series, and that is the Cruel Prince series by Holly Black. I've read a lot of like young adult fantasy, young adult in general throughout my life, but this series is the first one where I'm like, okay, the main character does feel like a badass, because we got to see her trained since birth, basically. We got to see her get put down, but also build herself back up again. We got to see Jude deal with politics, with strategy, wordplay, love, and she's like an anti-hero, basically, where there is no good guy in the Cruel Prince series. There's worse guys, and there's like worse guys and bad guys. That's like your whole options. Like Jude isn't a good character, but the people around her aren't good either. And it's just kind of the lesser of the two evils, basically. And I think the whole reason why like we're on Jude's side is because we're seeing it from her perspective. But if this story was written from like one of the enemy's perspectives in the Cruel Prince series, we would be on their side, which I think is how most stories work. But I really liked this one. I really like the politics of it. I really like to see the court interactions and Jude becoming her own person. And I really enjoyed the Cruel Prince series. My top 5 now. So number 5 was The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Reed. So I really liked the narrative flow of this novel. I liked the storytelling aspect of it, and the flow and pacing was amazing with how complicated the characters were. So Evelyn Hugo, we start out with her. So basically, the book follows Evelyn Hugo from when she's like a young child until she's older and telling her story to a reporter. And we get to see her relationship with her 7 husbands and her kind of secret life that she's been maintaining and hiding basically her whole life. And it's this beautiful novel where the relationships that she's able to maintain and kind of manipulate from the men around her are based on their own opinions of her. She does nothing but fit in the boxes that they think she does. She's kind of like Peggy Carter from Agent Carter or like the Marvel Universe, and I really enjoyed that. Number 4 was Circe by Madeline Miller. Madeline Miller, I know her other work, The Tale of Achilles is her like most well-known work, but I read that I think 2 years ago. But Circe is the one that stood out to me. She introduces us to this character who's basically timeless, ageless, and makes her feel real and grounded and like a woman we would know. And she's able to have Circe be an imperfect woman who has struggles and desires and traumas that she deals with in the only way she knows how and the environment that she exists in. And I feel like this is a book that you can just read over and over and you'll still find things and you'll be like, wow, I completely missed the lyricism there, or just her command of language I think is amazing. Number 3 is Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata. So I enjoyed this book. I read it about a month ago, and I think it's because I relate so much to the Convenience Store Woman. We don't really, when we're introduced to her, we're introduced to this woman who has to rely on other people's description of what it means to be a woman, what it means to be feminine, how to exist in a space where she doesn't really fit, and she's just kind of stuck copying everyone around her. And I really love how she's able to take everybody's opinions and then she lives her whole life with them, but she finds this place where she's comfortable, where she's in control. And when she's kind of forced to leave it, she has to make the ultimate decision. Is she going to be who everybody wants her to be, or is she going to be where she's comfortable? And it kind of felt like The Awakening by Kate Chopin in a way, where we're left kind of at this end where we don't know if it's good or bad for the main character. Where she's left, is it better or worse than where she started, or that kind of ambiguity, and I really enjoyed that. Number 2 was A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara. So I think if you're not new to this channel, then you know that I love A Little Life. I love Yanagihara. And I think she birthed Jude St. Francis because he feels like a real person. He feels like a real character. We get to know him. We get to know his life, his tics, things he likes, his dislikes, and we see his whole life. I still find myself thinking of him, and I read this book back in July, and I read this book back in August, and it's been months now. And you just kind of get to know these characters so well, and you get to experience their tragedies like you're living them. And it just makes you so empathetic, so starstruck by her command of storytelling and language that I just really enjoyed this book. As time has gone on, I have I've read the reviews and criticisms about the book being like torture porn, how she just tortures the characters, and I can say that yeah, she does that, but I think that was the point. I've watched interviews where Yanagihara was like, she wanted a character, Jude, who never got better, because that's what we expect in a book. We expect a character to get better, but then that's not really reality. And I think even in the book, Jude talks about how life isn't a movie, because in a movie everything usually works out pretty well for the characters, but his life isn't a movie, and that reality of it kind of grounds the book and makes it real. And then my favorite book of the year was Beloved by Toni Morrison. This book was disturbing, all capturing. Morrison's use of language, I think, is one of a kind. I've read a couple of Morrison's books this year, and I've read previous ones in the past couple of years, but she always amazes me with the characters she builds and the communities that she illustrates so wonderfully in her works. And I'm just awestruck that someone can communicate that well, these emotions, these feelings, and have them be so readily understood by someone who isn't from the same background. Those are my top 10 books of the year. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you guys have a nice end of the year, and I guess I'll see you next time. Bye.